and then we are more or less completed the module 1. Today, Brother Niranjan will lead us into the next session, and I'm sure it will be a very exciting, very interesting. We hope that all of you continue to be with us to pay attention and grab as much as you can. So, Brother Niranjan, over to you.
So this is the program we have been part of, and today is going to be focusing on the practical spirituality in daily lives. Before we get into the content of today's session, let's talk about let's reflect on the session we had 2 weeks ago, and Brother William would actually facilitate this session. Over to you, Brother William.
Thank you. Sairam, everyone. Certainly, I just appreciate Swami bringing us all together like this. And the last session, if you remember, we were talking about the growth that we have through various states of spiritual consciousness, whether it's more feeling separate, but we can still feel close to Swami, like a delicious relationship. We talked about having that experience instead of having the same DNA. We have that. We realize our potential divinity, that we are sons and daughters of God, of the Holy. And then also the sense of the non-duality, the sense of feeling at one, and how the experience of unconditional love gives us that experience where we can actually experience that oneness right here every single day, but that we dance and we shift between these states. And so the assignment at the end of my session was just to take notice of days when you can dance or you shift among these different kinds of consciousness of closeness, separate but still close, but closer and then closest. So I wanted to see if anyone had some reflections from the last session about how you were able to move from one to another, perhaps by, like if you were feeling distant, did you suddenly have an ability to feel some gratitude for the situation, or feeling appreciation or caring or compassion that would shift you from one to another, getting closer and closer to that feeling of our divine connection? So would anyone like to share anything that has happened in the last couple of weeks like that? Really, actually, remember, this is a safe space. We're here in Swami's love, and we all learn from each other. So just feel free, just even if it's a short little thing about being able to find a place where you felt a little distant from someone at work, and you just made a shift in some way to feel a sense of connection or a sense of appreciation, something like that. Anybody?
Sairam, William, Brother James here.
Yes. Yeah.
I think for the shift is not easy, but I think we are quite used to in daily life there's a lot of polishing, a lot of different opinions and view. So we tend to talk to Swami within ourselves, and being in the silence and observing as the situation move along. I think it helps a lot, rather than reacting or even responding. Keeping silent and being very careful inside talking to Swami. And sometimes you just need to be silent and let the whole thing just flow, It's interesting when you talk to Swami inward and letting the outside, the turbulence world move by itself. You need patience and tolerance, of course, right? And keeping silent. I think it's a good practice, Sadam.
Sadam, it's wonderful. Just the ability to, in a sense, be still and just listen and allow the moment to be what it is. And even in that kind of acceptance, you don't break the bond. You do have that feeling of connection, and that connection, that feeling of love is the divine experience, as Swami has told us. So great. Thank you so much, James. Someone else would like to speak? Well, let me give you another example just to prompt your thinking and to be able to carry this forward. When my wife and I were still engaged to be married, we realized that there was a shift that we wanted to make in what we thought that marriage was. And that so often we're taught that when you get married between two people, the two shall become one, is the way scriptures sometimes talk about that. I realized that in Swami's teaching, it's not so much the two separate beings become one, but there's already a oneness expressing as two. They were all expressions of that one divine. And so when we shifted our notion that marriage is not the two of us as separate beings coming together to form a oneness, but they were already one, just with two different expressions of the divine nature, it has really been a stronger chalice, if you will, to hold our marriage. And that, again, is the way that you can make those kinds of shifts. So with that, I'll go ahead and just turn it back to you. Any other comments you would like to make?
No, I think it's one thing I can observe is when you really feel that you are love, you're that the divine self, and it kind of shuts the external thing. So maybe that's probably the experiencing that oneness, that love, the divine being. So it's not necessarily not silence, but it's solitude. So yeah, no, thank you, Brother William, for your very beautiful session. It was really just just that so simple, like you basically simplified. Swami has already simplified it, and you presented it in a very simple way. And thank you for sharing your thoughts. So
Sairam.
Let's move on to the next section. For that, next we are going to, as usual, we usually have a silent sitting session, and there's a guided session, and let's focus on that. Let's sit comfortably and let's absorb in that music and that the sayings, so that we can prepare ourselves to be absorbed and to be able to receive or to be able to understand the Swami's teachings.
Sit comfortably and relax or close your eyes and move into a peaceful state of inner reflection. Focus on your breath. Just notice it without trying to change it. Allow your breath to become deeper naturally without force. With each breath, exhale any tension or busy thoughts. Feel yourself relaxing more and more. Your mind becoming more still. Continue breathing like this as the inspirational readings are read out. And allow any memories, insights, or images to naturally come into your awareness. In Hindu scriptures, we read, "This Supreme Lord who pervades all existence, the true self of all creatures, may be realized through undivided love." A Hebrew proverb states, "Only love gives us the taste of eternity." Augustine, an early Christian theologian, wrote, "God's nature is love, and by loving God, the human being can ultimately participate in divine love, in love itself." Confucius advised, "Love others as you love yourself. Who chooses not to dwell in love? Has he any wisdom?" Buddha declared, "We will develop love. We will practice it. We will make it both a way and a basis." The Muslim poet Rumi declared, "Be certain, in the religion of love, there are no believers or unbelievers. Love embraces all. Reason is powerless in the expression of love." What theme or message from these quotes most resonate within you? How does that theme relate to how you can nurture your spiritual growth?
So for today's session or the module or the session, we are going to be focusing on the agenda is going to lead us to one, deepen our understanding about the understanding of practicing spirituality in our daily living. That is a given that it has to be practiced, otherwise it's not, it remains a philosophy. The other one is deepen the understanding of nature of the 6 inner enemies. We will go into the details and we will also discuss them at length. And also we will understand the importance of practicing spiritual disciplines. In other words, sadhana. As Swami has emphasized so much on the importance of practicing sadhana and how that helps us. And we will go into the details shortly. So I think a few sessions ago, when Brother William was talking about what is really important, and he was sharing lots of these things, and these are true. We have a lot of different numbered codes and a list of things we have. But what matters is when we have these teachings, unless and until we understand and dive deeper into the meanings and practice them, these are not going to be helpful. So practical spirituality is the very first step, is to understand what these teachings mean. So for today, we are going to be focusing on the 4 Fs: follow the master, face the devil, fight to the end, and finish the game. Again, this is from Swami. So that's what we are going to be focusing on, and how we can understand, how we can deepen our understanding of these 4 and maybe lead a spiritual life. So for that, I would like to request, if possible, for you all to turn the cameras on, if possible, again, if you can. That way it will be more interactive. So appreciate that. Thank you. So what is your understanding of practical spirituality? Anyone would like to share their thoughts?
I think practical spirituality is what we feel is that in day-to-day life, how we can practice the spirituality. It's not a fundamental rules, but how in dealing with people, dealing with the environment, dealing with the workplace, how we can practice spirituality. That's what I feel is the practical spirituality.
Wonderful. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Anyone else? You can take one more. Saira, anyone?
Saddam, brother. I think it's more like that we are a seeker, we want to know the truth, what is about life and all that. So once you know the truth, which Swami teaching is very simple, very self-explanatory, So once you learn the truth, we put it into practical practice. Of course, we might not be perfect, it takes time, but clinging on to the truth, right? The teaching helps us a lot to easier to move. That will put into practical practice. Saddam.
Thank you, brother. I think you said the key word, right? The truth, knowing the truth and how we can practice that truth in our daily living. That is basically the whole quest of life, right? So the whole purpose of life. So let's see what Swami says about the practical spirituality.
There's no use of any spiritual practice. ఈ సాధనల వల్ల లభించేటువంటి ఫలితం ఏమిటి? What is the result out of this practice? తాత్కాలికమైనటువంటి యొక్క తృప్తిని అందించవచ్చును. It confers only temporary satisfaction. ధ్యానం అని కూర్చుంటారు. One sits in meditation. ఏది ధ్యానం? What is meditation? జీవితంలో సర్వము ధ్యానమే. In life, everything is meditation. ఆఫీసుకు పోతున్నావు, ఆఫీసులో పని చేస్తున్నావు. You go to the office and work there. అక్కడ ధ్యానం లేకపోతే ఆఫీస్ పని ఏ రీతిగా చేయగలవు? When you don't meditate on your work, how do you do that? ఈ ఆఫీసుకు పోయే సమయంలో కారును రోడ్ లోపల డ్రైవ్ చేసుకొని పోతున్నావు. While going to the office, you drive your way. డ్రైవ్ చేసే సమయంలో నీకు రోడ్డు పైన ధ్యానం లేకపోతే నువ్వు ఏ రీతిగా డ్రైవ్ చేయగలవు? While driving, if you don't concentrate, how do you? కనుక ధ్యానం అంటే ఏమిటి? What is meant by meditation? Walking, talking, reading, writing, eating, everything is there. Walking, talking, reading, writing, everything is meditation. అనగా ఒక్క విషయం పైన మనసును లగ్నం చేయటమే ధ్యానము అని. Meaning concentrating on విద్యార్థి ధ్యానం అంతా ఒక చదువు పైన. Student concentrates on study. తల్లి ధ్యానం అంతా బిడ్డల పైన. Mother concentrates on the child. గృహస్థుల ధ్యానం అంతా కుటుంబం పైన. Householder concentrates on కార్మికుల ధ్యానం అంతా కూడా మిషన్ల పైన. కర్షకుని ధ్యానం అంతా కూడా భూమి పైన. అంటే ఒక్కొక్కరికి ఒక్కొక్క విధమైన ధ్యానంగా ఉంటుండాలి. Farmer concentrates on the field, like that each one concentrates on one aspect. కనుకనే అదే విధంగానే నీ యొక్క మనసును భగవంతుని పైన లగ్నం చేయి. Similarly, you concentrate on God. అంతేకాని నిరంతరం కూడా ఏదో చేస్తున్నామనుకొని నీవు భగవంతుని పని చేయటం లేదని అనుకోకూడదు. While discharging your duty, you should never feel that you are not serving God. భగవంతుని పని. Whatever you may do is God's service. ఈ విధంగా సర్వకర్మ భగవత్ ప్రీత్యార్థమని భావించు. You consider that all actions are offered to God. నీవు భూమిని దున్నుతున్నావు, రైతువై. You till the land as the farmer. ఇదంతా నా యొక్క హృదయ భూమిని నేను సాగు చేస్తున్నాను అనుకో. You are tilling the field of your heart. దాంట్లో విత్తనములు చల్లుతున్నావు. You just sow the seed. నా హృదయ భూమి లోపల నేను సరైనటువంటి యొక్క మంచి విత్తనములు చల్లుకుంటున్నాను, సద్గుణమైనటువంటి విత్తనములు చల్లుకుంటున్నాను అనుకో. I am sowing the seeds of good thoughts in the field of my heart. దీనిని అభివృద్ధి గావించుకోవాలనుకుంటూ నీరు కడుతున్నావు. To develop it, you also water. ప్రేమ జలమును దీనికి కడుతున్నాను అనుకో. I am supplying. ఈ విధంగా ఒక్కొక్క వ్యక్తి కూడాను ఆధ్యాత్మిక మార్గంలో ప్రవేశించాలనుకుంటే జపమాల పట్టుకోనక్కర్లేదు, ఒంటరిగా కూర్చోనక్కర్లేదు, అరణ్యానికి పోవనక్కర్లేదు. తన యొక్క పని యందే తన యొక్క దివ్యత్వాన్ని సందర్శించవచ్చు. To lead a spiritual life, one need not sit in solitude, one need not lead any kind of japamala, but one can lead the spiritual life. కనుక ఈనాడు మానవత్వంలో మొట్టమొదట మనం గుర్తించవలసినటువంటిది ఐక్యతను మనం కోల్పోతున్నాం. First thing we have to recognize is that we have lost unity. ఐక్యతను పెంచుకోవాలి. We should develop unity. అందరూ ఒక్కటిగా మనం భావించుకోవాలి. We should consider everyone alike. నీకు శారీరకంగా భేదములు ఉండవచ్చును. There may be body difference. మానసికంగా అభిప్రాయ భేదములు ఉండవచ్చును. There may be differences of opinion. ఆత్మతత్వం ఒక్కటే. But there is only one. అదే ఏకోహం బహుశ్యాం. That's one that manifested into many. ఇలాంటి అనేకత్వంలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఏకత్వాన్ని మనం గుర్తింపజేసేటువంటి ఒక సాధనలో మనం ప్రవేశించాలి. We should take that path that will help us to arrive at the unity in diversity. ప్రేమ స్వరూపులారా, embodiments of love. మన సంబంధము చాలా శాశ్వత సంబంధం. Our relationship is permanent. నిన్న చెప్పినట్టుగా అంగములు శరీరమునికి ఎట్లా ప్రధానము, as Swami said yesterday, as limbs are important to the body. ఇంద్రియములు ఈ యొక్క శరీరమునికి ఎంత ప్రధానము, as limbs are so important to the body. శరీరములు సమాజమునకు అంత ఆధారము. The body is also important for society. ఈ సమాజంలో ఉన్నటువంటి అంగములే ఈ శరీరములు. All the limbs of the society. ఈ సమాజము మానవత్వకు అంగము. The society is the limb to the humanity. కనుక మానవత్వము ప్రకృతికి అంగము. Humanity is the limb to the nature. ఈ ప్రకృతి పరమాత్మకు అంగము. This nature is the limb of God. కనుక ప్రపంచములో ఎక్కడ చూచినప్పటికీ అంగీభావ సంబంధం అనేటువంటిది సాక్షాత్కరిస్తుండాలి. So wherever you see there is this kind of relationship between the limb and the body. కనుక అంత సంబంధము అంగములతో కూడి ఉంటుండాలి. So there is this kind of relationship between the ద్వేషానికి ఎక్కడ అవకాశం ఉంటుండాలి. Then where is the scope for hatred? కనుక ఇదంతా ఒక బ్రహ్మాండము. The entire thing is universe. ఈ బ్రహ్మాండమే విశ్వ విరాట స్వరూపము. This is the very form of Vishnu. ఈ విరాట స్వరూపంలో అందరూ ఒక భాగముని. In cosmic form we are a part. ఒక చిన్న ఉదాహరణ, a small example. నేను ఏమీ తెలియనటువంటి మూర్ఖుడను. I don't know anything, I'm a fool. నేను విద్యా విహీనుడను. I don't have education. నేను అల్పుడను. I'm a mean. అని అనేక మంది భావిస్తుంటారు. Many feel so. ఆ విధంగా భావించకూడదు. You should never consider like that. మనము అనేక విధములుగా కూడా కొన్ని మిషన్లు అంతా చూస్తున్నాము. We see so many machines. రాకెట్స్ అంతా చూస్తున్నాము. We see rockets. ఈ రాకెట్స్ లోపల అనేక పిన్స్, స్క్రూస్, బోల్ట్స్, నట్స్ ఇవన్నీ ఉంటుంటాయి.
In these rockets, there are so many screws, nuts, and bolts.
ఈ రాకెట్స్ లో ఉన్నటువంటి ఏ యొక్క వస్తువు ప్రధానమైనటువంటిది, ఏ యొక్క పార్ట్ ప్రధానమైనటువంటిది,
Which part is important in this rocket?
ఎవరు నిర్ణయించడానికి వీలు కాదు.
Nobody can decide.
ప్రతి స్క్రూను ఇంపార్టెంటే,
Every screw is important.
ప్రతి బోల్ట్ కూడాను ప్రధానమైనటువంటిదే,
Every bolt
ప్రతి
is
నట్ కూడాను ప్రధానమైనటువంటిదే,
every nut is
ప్రతి
important.
స్క్రూ కూడాను ప్రధానమైనటువంటిది.
Every screw is important.
ఇంత పెద్ద రాకెట్ లోపల చిన్న పిన్ను పోతే ఏమి నష్టం అంటే అంతా భస్మం అయిపోతుంది.
In such a big rocket, when small pin is gone, the whole thing will put down to ashes.
కనుకనే ఈ విశ్వమైనటువంటి విరాట స్వరూపం లోపల ఒక్కొక్క వ్యక్తి కూడాను ఒక్కొక్క పిన్ను, బోల్ట్స్, నట్స్, స్క్రూస్.
In this cosmic form of God, in this universe, everyone is a screw or a bolt or a nut.
కనుక ఎవరెవరి స్థానంలో ఎవరెవరు ఏ విధంగా ఉన్నారో వాళ్ళ కర్తవ్యాన్ని చక్కగా నిర్వర్తించాలి.
Basing on our position, the place, each one
అప్పుడే
has to
ఈ
discharge his
విశ్వమైనటువంటి
duty.
యొక్క మిషన్ చక్కగా జరుగుతూ ఉంటుండాలి, ప్రశాంతిని చేకూరుస్తుంది.
Then this universe, which is a machine, will run softly and well.
విశ్వశాంతిని కోరి మనం ఈ యొక్క పనిని మనం ప్రారంభించాలి.
We should work for universal peace.
విశ్వశాంతియే వ్యక్తి శాంతి,
The peace in the universe ensures the peace in the individual.
వ్యక్తి శాంతియే విశ్వశాంతిగా భావించరాదు.
The individual peace, we should never make it
విశ్వశాంతి
universal.
వ్యక్తి శాంతి.
It is the universal peace that is the individual peace.
ఎందుకనగా విశ్వంలో నీవు ఒక్కడు.
Because you are a part in the universe.
ఆ విధమైనటువంటి సమత్వాన్ని మనం విశ్వసించాలి.
That kind of equanimity you should have.
So Swami actually kind of summarized what we have been learning the last few weeks. One is that everything that we do is actually God's work. You know, it could be our office work, could be science center work, could be even working, even the work we do at home. It is God's work, and how that can be worship, you know, because we focus, we meditate, we concentrate on that, and it becomes meditation when we have that right attitude and that focus on every task we do. And it becomes an offering to God. And also, as Brother William said, that the underlying principle that who we really are is that oneness, that God, and how we can have that unity with the universe, with everyone, and that oneness. So I think he beautifully summarized what we have been learning in the last few weeks. And the other important thing is sometimes we feel that, oh, I'm not good enough. Am I really contributing to this whole thing? Or am I really doing anything? Is my presence needed in this universe or in this world? And as Swami said, every single one is important. Every single one is playing a vital role in that, the whole mission of God. And that actually gives us a purpose. That gives us the awareness of our presence and how our presence is going to help define our purpose and how we can all be together and work for that universal peace. So one thing is very important. One thing that we have all understood is that there is the being. Of course, the internal being is the unconditional love or the divine being, divine self that we all are. That's who we really are. At the same time, we also have it's reflected externally as what we see outside. And that could be, ideally, that could be reflected or expressed in good behavior, good manners, good discipline. And if you look at these three things, they kind of relate to the three gunas, the Sattva guna, the Tamasic, Rajasic, and also the Sattvic, because the good discipline will help us to get over the Tamasic, or the, like, if you become so lazy and, you know, so much kind of into slumber, a good discipline is like regulating ourselves would help us to be that being reflecting that the divine self. And then, of course, the good manners is basically how we treat others. In other words, we don't get angry, you know, the Rajasic qualities, so that we treat everyone as knowing that who they are, that we are all one divine self. And then the good behavior, it's reflected on how we know who we are. In other words, when we have that, yes, we are the divine self, and we conduct ourselves in that awareness, then it becomes a good behavior. So this is still in a very kind of say qualified non-dual state where we know that we are the divine self, but at the same time, we are also caught in this body identification, and it is with the awareness, it is reflected as the good, these, you know, in some of these waves. So the question is, we also have to focus on being that good person, being that divine self. So what is really stopping us, or why are we not able to live up to that complete potential, complete self? Because there's something stopping us, or something we are not able to manifest that hidden self. So what does Swami say about this? So Swami says people are not interested in religious discourses. The reason is that these discourses are confined to the platform. There is no earnest inquiry into the value of these teachings, nor is there practice of the precepts. The foremost need today is to live the life of the Spirit. And this is what I'm talking about, living in that awareness, live the life of the Spirit, that who we really are, the soul, the self, and that divine self. So, and then we talk about teachings, as I mentioned in the beginning, then, but if that is divorced from practice, then it's not, it remains an information, it is not transformation. And so that's what we are going to be talking about today. So as I mentioned, for us to live the life of the Spirit and to practice spirituality, what we are going to be focusing on is the following. So as this was given by Swami, so we will be focusing on these four: follow the master, face the devil, fight to the end, and finish the game. So, you know, just giving you a high level what it means: conscience, negativity, lifelong, and then the fulfillment of the realization. So let's go into the details of these four. So when you hear the word, or when you hear the phrase follow the master, what is the operative word in the statement follow the master? Anyone? What is the key word in this phrase?
Sairam, is it follow your conscience?
That is, we'll go into that, but I'm talking about in these three words, what do you think is the key word, or is the operative word?
Master.
Okay.
Master.
Anyone
Follow.
else?
It's follow.
Follow. Okay.
I think
Follow
the keyword is
master.
the is the keyword.
The.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone? Yes. Anyone else?
Master.
Okay. So actually all three are important, but think about it. If it says follow a master, that could be, you can follow any master, like you choose a master. And, you know, if it says just, you know, follow master, it's also very clear. But as Brother Billy said, the word the actually is what making this very unique. It's actually, it's directing to one thing. There's only one master, follow the master. And who is that? What is that master? And that's what we are going to be talking about. So we, you know, we could be anywhere. So the more we depend on external entities as guidance, or external beings as guidance, that could be, it all depends on how we connect to that external entity. But that same entity that's guiding us, the God principle, that is actually in us in the form of conscience, as some of you mentioned. So if we can really develop that connection and relationship with that conscience and follow the master, which is our conscience. The conscience is nothing but the inner voice of the consciousness of God present in us. We are always in that constant integrated awareness. So, you know, so for all the four F's, this is very foundational. If you don't get this right, then the rest is going to be, if you follow a master from time to time, our fight to the end, finish the game, or whatever, these are all going to be varying. So it's important that we know which master we are talking about. And also when you say we follow the master, at any time when we have received a guidance from within, there is no choice. It is always you do the right thing. We will always do the right thing at that very moment. It's not being right, it's just doing the right thing, because the conscience will always give us one thing to do, which is the right thing to do. So what does Swami say? So you should make your conscience secure and you should have confidence in yourself. Your conscience is your guide and it should dictate your behavior. Again, going back to the good behavior, it's reflected, the conscience is reflected in our behavior. So now the next one is face the devil. So what is this devil we are talking about? There are so many things that we face in our own day-to-day life. What is this devil we are talking about? I know we have already shared, so I'm just going to go to the, so yes, I have a message in chat. If you don't follow, then even a master is there, it does not solve the purpose. Yes, that's true. Yeah, we need to have the master and also we have to follow the master. That's true. That's a practice. Thank you, brother. So, so here,
sorry, does it also mean confront our inner enemies?
Wow, sister, you are right on. Very good.
Sairam.
Come on. Okay. Yes. The devil here we are talking about is the 6 negative qualities of the inner enemies, as you said. In Sanskrit, it's called Harshadvargas. So, yes, the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya. So, as we mentioned about that being that good self, being a divine self, and also the external self, whatever, being that good person, we also have to really face our demons, face our the devil, or so to say, the negative qualities, because it is in us. Once we know who our master is, who we are following, then once we have the clear direction, then we tend to identify the things. Okay, you know what, we have these things, and the self-inquiry would help us to understand and identify the prominent negative qualities. So, you know, we have these 6 ones, but if you really look at all these distractions, all these negative habits or the bad habits, they're all linked to one or the other. So I think the very foundation of the 6 negative qualities is the desire. It's the desire is the one that's actually, you know, everything is kind of springing upon the desire. So once we know what these are and how they influence our life, then it's easy to go to the next level, which is before that. So Swami says, the 6 evil tendencies which envelop man's nature and act as hindrances. So these 6 qualities are actually hindrances to our spiritual progress. And here's the shift, you know, as you know that, yes. Someone was saying something?
No, we thought you were not speaking. I thought we were muted or something.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So the shift is, you know, likewise, they should be worshipped. You know, as you know that this program is all about nurturing, how we can shift our mindset to learning, reading, to practicing. So here, what Swami is saying is identifying these things and also knowing what they are, understanding the nature, at the same time, should also be likewise worshipped. This is clearly laid down in the Tapovanam. So under the Ayudha Puja chapter, Swami has clearly given what it is. So that's what...
Just a quick comment on that. When I first read this quote, I was like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean worship them? So I'm very curious to see what happens next year. I just want to say, at first blush, this doesn't make any sense to me. And yet I know it has to. So I just wanted to say that.
Yes. So we are still talking about facing the devil. So now the shift comes to the next level, which is fight to the end. Come on. Fight to the end. So until one is able to overcome these inner forces. So what does Swami say? So you have these negative qualities, but when they are turned towards God, they become positive. So this is when as Brother William said, when I read this first time, and it was just mind-blowing. How can these things be offered to God? How can these things be turned towards God, or how we can transform into positive? And Swami said, and when he said, you offer everything, you come offer your mind to me, you offer everything, all the things to me, and I will take you as you are, as you are. And it's very true. And Swami, he's going through each of these, and he said this karma is intense compulsive desire. So when you direct this towards God, it then changes into a craving to have darshan of the Lord, eagerness to reach God, or to obtain his grace. And the karma takes a shape of eagerness to reach God. Now, as I said, for all the six or the inner enemies or inner negative qualities, karma is the foundation. So if that foundation is turned towards God, then the next one is krodha. Then krodha is, if you turn it towards God and ask, angrily and intensely, why has he not come to me? Why are you taking so much time to come to me and save me? And how long should I keep waiting for that? And what fault have I committed? It becomes a communication and intense prayer with God, and that turns into determination. We are so determined to reach him, determined to get him, and determined to have that one-on-one intimate relationship with God. And the third one is lobha, or miserliness, which if you turn towards God, also again, very intensely, you begin to feel the intense possessiveness. Think about it. When you actually, have that possessive love towards God, it just, Swami says, out of all madness, God madness is best. So if that possessiveness, if we have possessiveness towards our things, our cars or whatever, but if you turn towards God, turns towards Swami, and it becomes intense craving for God, that I belong to him, he belongs to me, and it just becomes the relationship becomes so strong that even the breath does not come in between us, in between God and the devotees. And the next one is infatuation. It's very interesting how this is, it actually makes us lose the sense of discrimination. But when it's directed to God, one feels that one cannot live without God. It's just, again, it's a very intimate, for lack of a better word, romantic relationship with God. Or you can say romantic, because it's a very pure relationship. And life in this world holds no charm. You lose interest in all the things that maybe we were so attached to, and they don't make any sense. We just want to be in the company of God. The mind refuses to hear the reason. Here to reason cares for no use or no one. It turns crazy in its longing for God. Moha transforms into blind and compulsive devotion to God. And the other one is mada, or pride and arrogance. And when that is turned towards God, mada means pride coupled with arrogance. You can see that when people are proud, they also become arrogant. But when that arrogant is directed towards God, you feel that my God, my own Lord, is being enticed away by somebody. I have the support and grace of God. I have great clout. None can dare to cross my path. It also really gives that faith, the trust, like I belong to him. None can dare to do anything. Nothing is going to happen to me. It's just, the relationship becomes so intense, and that's so beautiful. So that mada becomes faith and trust in God. Then matsarya, or the jealousy, And when that is directed towards God, my dear brothers and sisters, it is again a very overpowering desire for closeness with God. It's like you develop that. Again, this helps us to develop that very intimate inner connection with ourselves, because in that is the only connection where none can come in between. It's just us and us. It's the self and Swami and us. So the question is, the shifting is very important, and we've heard from Swami. Before I go into the next one, any thoughts, any questions, or anything anyone would like to add or share? Brother Suresh or anyone?
Saram, brother.
Saram.
Thank you so much for explaining the negative qualities and how we should channel it, and perhaps imbibing those positive aspects to it as well. However, I'm finding it a bit difficult to see the connection, or how do we transmute this negative energy to positive. So let me give you an example, then maybe we can take it off from there. If I'm not mistaken, you started off by saying karma is one of the important negative qualities that needs to be transmuted or directed to God. So if we look at karma, and if we break it down, there are many desires that we have. Let's say if I have a very strong sexual desire, how do I transmute that sexual desire to God? In what ways? Is it through speaking to Swami? Is it through what practical ways do I do it in order for it to be converted to eagerness to reach God? So similarly, Krodha, Lobha, Moha and all, how do we practically convert this to a positive aspect? Saira.
So I think, thank you very much for that question, brother. That's really important. And I know I would like to welcome anyone also would like to share your thoughts on this. This is very important, how it is, I know we talk about the desire, it's all that, we desire, but sometimes when it comes to a personal life, or sometimes it's very private, but we have to face them. So we have to recognize them. And so there are two things. So one is, I think when you said, yes, brother Manoj, please.
I think the biggest example is Tulsi Das, because he was so beloved to his wife that one day he went to his wife's place, and he climbed the house top holding a snake instead of a rope. And she rebuked him so much. That is, if you have so much of love with me, if you have with the God, you'll be doing something more greater. And that's what changed him to write the Ramayana and becoming a strong devotee. So we have an example of that side.
Thank you, brother. Yes, I think someone else would want to share something. Unmute. I'll let them speak.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
This desire, karma desire, is very strong when you're very young. So we are talking about a young man who's having that kind of a desire, like what the brother was talking about just now, and it's very difficult to surpass that desire. You may want to be a party to that desire. The question is, what level of spirituality has this boy or this young boy? If he comes from, say, a Sai family, he has been exposed to all values. And if he has such a desire, then he has got a way out. And this is what this Swami from Tiruvannamalai said. He said, when you have that kind of problem arising you just ask a question, who am I? And when you raise a question, such desires disappear. That's upon the condition that you have values on spirituality. You have values for God. You respect your parents. You respect your sisters. And you are brought up in such a way. And if that desire were to come in, if you ask, who am I? The desire will just transmute and you go off to another angle. So what are you talking about now? You would like to ask Swami whether he could help him in that critical situation where he might lose hope and fall or become a victim to the desire. However, if he's not from such a good family, if he is from some other class of family where he has been subjected to that kind of an influence, it's not going to help unless he comes out strongly because of a strong personality in life who has taught him to fight such kind of desires. For example, a teacher he respects most, and you like to emulate that teacher. And this thought which comes like the desire, suddenly he thinks of his teacher and he comes out of it. But many others may just succumb to that situation and may have to go through the experience like as if it is natural for them. But I'm very impressed, or rather I'm very happy with the explanation given by by the Swami from Tiruvannamalai. I forget his name, Tiruvannamalai Swami. And he says very clearly in his article that when you have these agitations which are natural and which it comes to you, you have to ask this question, who am I? There is another chapter which we read during Jnana Vahini class discussions, where when there is a sound of, say, Lord Shiva, you say Shiva Shiva. Again, the prerequisite, you must have some spiritual background in you. And if that desire comes and we say Shiva Shiva, thinking of your parents, thinking of the Lord, then that eagerness for the sexual desire will be cancelled and you go into the right direction. So it all depends on what kind of a person you are, your background, and what is your state of influence, and how you can come out of that ring of fire which has come to you. Saram, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for your thoughts. And I would like to. No, I mean, I'm glad that brother asked this question because, as I said, we are all commoners and we all have our vasanas and impressions from whatever previous life, and it is natural. So it's totally fine to have these things, but the key thing is, as you mentioned, like we need to know what is really prominent in us, and especially the one the sexual desire you just spoke about. That kind of relates to the lobha, or the moha, means infatuation. So what it does is it kind of dulls our vision or the discrimination, right? So because for that, once we know what that's the prominent thing that we have, maybe we have the desire and the intention to transform or change. So my recommendation is, what I would do is have that open conversation with Swami and let him guide you, because the intimate friend, the closest friend that we have is Swami, and he only understands our situation individually and intimately, and it's a one-on-one. And the most compassionate, the most understanding God is Swami. So once in order for us to even turn these towards God, we have to establish that personal, intimate connection with him. Because only when we have, for example, how you shared here, only when you have the trust that, yes, this is a safe zone, that you're able to share it. So that relationship that, we are safe in his hands, he has accepted us as who we are with all our shortcomings, flaws. So it is, just we may not see the progress right away, but I'm sure with his love, we are progressing. And
Yeah.
Sarah,
Thank you, brother. Just to add on, it was just a hypothetical question. I did not indicate in any way that that was something that I was experiencing.
No. The thing is, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying this is for you. I'm just saying that even to ask that question, that's very important, because this may not be true to some of us here, or maybe true to some of us here, but it is a situation that people face. Yes.
Correct. Especially when we have spiritual conversations, and often enough, like Brother Rama mentioned just now, as you age, certain impulses, certain desires naturally fall off. But how about those of us who are young? So similarly, I think we should consider those who are of all ages, and perhaps give solution on how we can convert or transmute this energy towards Swami. And a very good way that you mentioned just now, brother, is to maybe have a heart-to-heart conversation with Swami. However, on a deeper level, I also do understand that these are all qualities of the mind, right? The desires, all these negative qualities are qualities of the mind. So by directing this towards Swami, it's a way of how we are actually training the mind to concentrate on one particular point, which is what the video which was shared before, directing everything towards Swami. However, maybe what could have been a bit more clear was the method, how we can do it. Sarah.
Maybe towards the end we are going to be talking about that, just to a little bit, but overall how we can maybe follow the master and face the devil and fight to the end. We will talk about that. Swami's actually, I have another video to share. I know, William, you unmuted. You have, yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to add something I hadn't had the thought of, and it kind of builds off of what Ramanathan was saying. I think that, the first thing, like if I feel anger, it's almost like I'm justifying the anger. I'm continuing to wrap it up. I'm ramping it up because I'm so identified with it. So to me, the first step is that stop. It's like a little bit of a step back. And in that stepping back away from identifying with our desire or our infatuation or our pride, just stepping back. And then that's where that space opens up to ask the question. And one question, I think kind of the jnana path would be, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? The bhakti path would says, how can divine love be here? How can I bring divine love here? And the seva path would bring, how can I serve here? So for example, with the love, is there something I can appreciate in this moment instead of my anger? Is there something I feel grateful for instead of this anger? So when we're turning that towards the positive and we make that pause, we ask whichever question is our person, what wakes us up a little bit from each of the paths. And in that waking up, we've already then released that attachment, that strong identity from the negative. And we're naturally open. We're just going to fall into and sink into the positive. I remember the story of someone who was a chain smoker. And Swami, he wanted to break his habit. Swami says, well, just offer every cigarette to me. And as he was okay, so he would smoke and he'd offer that cigarette to Swami. And over time, that desire for smoking ceased. Every time he kept offering it. So it's that kind of just that taking the step back, asking what is your question that tuned you back in, and then allow that to do its work. It's almost like a homeopathic. Thank you, Saram.
Thank you, William. That's very important. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know I've also heard some people share that, whenever they had certain addictions, drinking and alcohol, and the message they received was like, every time they kind of sit down to take a drink, they offer it to Swami. That's because that's their connection, that's their their intimate relationship with Swami. So over time, they were able to get over that, because at one point when they really had the love became so intense and pure, they only could offer the best for him. It only became, so it just that naturally they were able to give up that. So that's what I'm saying, that how we turn everything towards God because, I mean, yeah, we come into this world with all these impressions, vasanas, and grateful to Swami that he has given us this words of wisdom and also that very compassionate approach. I mean, if he had, set the criteria for us to be his devotees, I can speak for myself, we would not be here. None of us, I mean, I would not be qualified, but because of his compassion that I'm able to, I'm able to be his devotee, if I may call myself. So, good question. So what most effective manner to follow the master? I'm going to leave that to maybe the tool time. So for you to think about that for the next 2 weeks, and maybe we'll discuss that when we come back in 2 weeks. Maybe when we have time, we can discuss that too. But just for the time, I want to move on to the next segment. So, Swami always talked about that you have the key. If you turn towards God, and you have the key, then you can turn toward the world, then it becomes so entangled and distraction. So if you lock yourself into the body identification and with all the things we just spoke about, then we are kind of locking ourselves and become very limited because we are so caught up in that, as Brother Sabitan mentioned, mind, and mind takes up the leadership. But when it turned towards God, even the negative qualities become positive because the conscience is in charge, is guiding, is directing us. So, it depends on the understanding is that now that we know what is really prominent in us, what we need to work on, then we can we know the method. It may take time. That's okay. As long as we also have to be patient with us, perseverance. Fight to the end also means persevere. Be patient. I know we talk about being patient with others. It's also important to be patient with us and be that understanding of our progress. So again, finish the game is overcoming the weaknesses. And Swami said, once you know who you really are, then your conduct also changes. And with that awareness, you don't think I'm weak. And earlier Swami said, right, we think I'm mean, I'm weak, I'm this and that, but we all have to know that who we are. We are all part of this whole creation, that oneness, that one Paramatma, one big self. And if we are part of that small self, then there is no room for weakness once we understand and realize that. So, and also then it becomes, we become very self-satisfied because our conscience is guiding us. And then that leads to self-realization. So, so the question is, this duty, and the Swami says that this duty is referred to in the Gita as Swadharma. Basically, this is our duty, everyone's duty, individual duty, or for lack of a better word, duty. But Dharma, you understand what it means. One's genuine obligation to oneself. The duties that one gets involved in while dealing with others is defined as Paradharma. Of these two, Swadharma is more vital and valuable. So the 4 F's we talked about, they're basically the duty of each human being. Now the question is, how can I nurture the practice of 4 F's in my life so that I am practicing spirituality in my daily life? So that's what we are going to be talking about next. As I mentioned, Brother Sabitan, so we'll touch upon a little bit on that, what practices maybe we can do to be in that. I think to start with, good company may be a good way to, to be in a good company so that we are surrounded with goodness, and that helps us to understand and realize the prominent negative qualities. So for that, the spiritual discipline or the sadhana is important on a regular basis. Consistency is very important. And Swami has emphasized so much on the on the practice of sadhana and spiritual discipline. So let's hear what Swami says about the spiritual discipline.
Every object is full of Brahman. Sarva Swarupam Kudanu Brahmane. Every form is Brahman. ఇలాంటి తత్వమే ఉపనిషత్తులు బోధించినటువంటి యొక్క సత్య తత్వములు. These are the principles which have been expounded in Upanishads. కనుక మనము నిజముగా మనలో దాగినటువంటి అగోచరంగా ఉండినటువంటి గుప్తమైనటువంటి ఈ చైతన్యమును మనం వ్యక్తము గావించుకోవాలి. All that we'll have to do is we'll have to manifest the hidden and the subtle consciousness which is already there in us. ఏ రీతిగా మనం వ్యక్తం గావించుకోవాలి? How can we manifest this? మనకు చలి సమయాల లోపల బనీని వేసుకుంటాం. In winter you put on a banian inside. దానిపైన ఒక షర్ట్ వేసుకుంటాం. You wear a shirt on that. దానిపైన దట్టమైన కోటును కప్పుకుంటాం. On that you wear another coat. ఈ విధమైనటువంటి డ్రెస్సును నీవు ధరించి నా చెస్ట్, నా హృదయం నాకు కనిపించలేదే అనుకుంటే ఏ రీతిగా కనిపిస్తుంది? When you cover yourself with so many types of dress, if you say I have not been able to see my own body and my own chest, how can you see? మొదట నీవు పైన కప్పినటువంటి దట్టమైన కోటును తీసివేయి. In the first instance, remove the coat which is so thick. తదుపరి అందులో ఉన్నటువంటి షర్టును కూడా తీసేసేయి. Second, you remove your shirt also. ఆ పైన బనియన్ కూడా తీసేసేయి. And then you remove the banian. నిన్ను నీవు చూసుకో, నీ చెస్ట్ నీకు కనిపిస్తుంది. Then you try to take a look at your own chest, you will be able to get a view of it. అదే విధంగానే ఈనాడు తమో గుణం అనేటువంటి దట్టమైన కోటును కప్పుకున్నాం మనము. In the same way, we have covered ourselves with this tamo guna. రజో గుణం అనేటువంటి అలంకారానికి ఆకర్షించేటువంటి షర్టులు వేసుకున్నాము. రజో గుణ which will be compared. ఈ షర్టు మాసిపోకుండా ఉండే కోసమని సాత్వికమైనటువంటి తిన్నిగా ఉండేటువంటి ఒక బనీని వేసుకున్నాం. We are also covering ourselves with a thin. ఈ మూడింటితో కప్పబడినప్పుడు మన చెస్ట్, మన హృదయం మనకి ఏ రీతిగా కనిపిస్తుంది? When your heart is covered by these three gunas, how can you get a vision of మొట్టమొదటి తమో గుణం తీసివేయి. Therefore in the first place remove రజో గుణం తీసివేయి. Then you remove రజో గుణ. ఆ పైన సాత్వికం కూడా తీసివేయి. Then you remove even sattva guna also. అప్పుడే నీ ఆత్మతత్వం నీకు కనిపిస్తుంది. ఇవి నీవు వేసుకున్నటువంటి డ్రెస్సులే. Then only you will be able to get a vision of your Atman. All these are worn by you. నీవు వేసుకున్నవి తీసివేయి అంతే. ఇంక ఉన్నదానిని నీవు చేయనక్కర్లేదు. All that you will have to do is whatever you have worn on your Atma, you remove them. ఉన్నది ఉన్నట్టుగానే కనిపిస్తుంది. Then you will be able to get Atma as it is. దానిని చూడడానికి కొత్త ప్రయత్నం చేయనక్కర్లేదు. For getting a vision of it, there is no need for making any extra effort. కనుక నీ గుణముల యొక్క తత్వాన్ని నీవు పెంచుకున్నావు. You have developed these three gunas. పెంచుకున్న గుణములను చించివేయి. All those gunas which you have developed, you remove them. ఉంచుకున్న హృదయాన్ని చక్కగా నీవు దర్శించు. Then you will be able to get a vision of your own heart. దీనికి కూడాను ఒక విధమైనటువంటి దైవానుగ్రహం కావాలి. Even for this, grace of God is essential. ఈ దైవానుగ్రహం పొందే నిమిత్తమే మనం సాధనలు చేయాలి. For getting the grace of God, you have to undertake sadhana.
So at the end of the day, it's the God's grace is what is going to take us across. So that's why it's important to have that intimate connection with God and always have that intense devotion, that, because as I said, that follow the master is that conscience is basically the inner voice of God, and that guidance is always available for us. And so the spiritual discipline we're talking about is to kind of focus, the God's grace is available, but we have to kind of use the lens to focus that, so that it's a focused attempt, so that it is directed, it's directed towards us. We can just absorb that. And so as Swami said, sadhana is not merely acquiring knowledge about the nature of body. In fact, you have to forget about the body and concentrate on the Atmic bliss. How do you attain that bliss? It can be attained only through prema. If there is only pure love, all your suffering will be removed. Therefore, cultivate pure and selfless love. So this love, the word love, is very big. It also means love God. I mean, love God, of course, that's the foundation. And then that means it is also meaning loving all, loving our own selves with our own shortcomings and everything. So it's basically, that's the foundation. And I think Brother William has emphasized so much on this. Even a month ago, when we talked about the three paths, we talked about love. It's a source, love is the path, and love is the goal. So love is all pretty much everything that throughout. It's the methods, the everything, it's all based on love. So what is a spiritual discipline? Does spiritual discipline or following spiritual discipline means that is spiritual living? Or is it a means to spiritual life? It is a means to spiritual life. It is to get, as Swami said, sadhana will help us get God's grace. And so it is a means to spiritual life. It helps us connect to the master, conscience. Because I remember when Swami was talking about the morning prayers, and he said, when you actually do the 21 Om in the morning, during the Brahma Muhurtam, that will help us calm our mind and will help us guide throughout the day, because you don't have any agitations. You would just calm your mind. And that's just with the Omkar. And think about the Suprabhadam and when we do the morning prayers. So it helps us to connect to the master. And again, helps us practice the 4 Fs in life. It enables the 3 paths, the work, worship, and wisdom. And I think Swami has touched upon how these 3 are connected. And we also had discussed that in the previous sessions. So for devotees or commoners like us, what Swami has prescribed is, as for the spiritual discipline, is the following. Yes, William.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to this thing about God's grace for a moment, because in my understanding of what Swami has taught, it's not so much this notion that we have to do something in order to get God to give us grace. You know, we don't have to earn it, like we don't have it now, and if we do the right things, we'll get it. Instead, it's more like the sun. You know, we've put up the clouds, but that doesn't mean the sun's not shining. All we have to do is remove the clouds, and we'll realize the sun's always been there. And the same thing with your lock and key. You know, the grace is always there, but if we close the lock, we're simply shutting it out. And by the sadhana, we're simply turning the key to open up to what already is there. So because God's grace is unconditional, it doesn't depend on what we do. It's just a matter of whether we're open to receiving it. And I think that's an important distinction.
Yes, thank you for saying that. Yes, as you know, I think that's what I said. It's available. It's like the sun, but to get that rays towards us, that's when that sadhana, because we have these mental blockers, or the physical blockers that kind of blocks the rays that are coming towards us. So the sadhana, spiritual sadhana, is to help us clear those things, clear those blockers. For example, the mental chatter, you know, if the mind is all agitated and all over the place, then we are not able to focus. So that's why the spiritual discipline is important, to focus, to be calm, so that we can receive that's already available, God's grace. Thank you for making that distinction, Brother William. So what Swami has prescribed for all devotees is the 9-point code of conduct. So if you look at these 9-point codes of conduct, basically they talk about all the 3 paths that we discussed about a month ago. So daily meditation prayer, you start with that. It's the worship, and then again devotional singing, or with members of the family, like collective on a weekly basis or regular basis. And that's also devotion. Participation in the Bali Vikas program, that's kind of a wisdom related activity. And again, bhajans or Nagar Sangeetam, that's also devotion. Participation in community service, active work related activities. Regular study of Sai literature, very important. I think we need to know what we need to do. In order for us to know what we need to do, we need to read. We need to get that information, the knowledge. So number 6, regular study of Sal literature. I can speak from my experience that when I came to this country about 20 years ago, I was just waiting to get into college. And then 3 months I was with my aunt, and then she gave me Swami's discourses to read. And that's when I really started reading Swami's literature. And to be honest, when I was 21, I was just reading one after the, one Saradi after one. And trust me that the impact and the influence that Swami's discourses had on me, that is, those 3 months were really the formative years, so to say, for me to even to have that desire to read Swami's literature. And the seed for transformation was actually planted in those 3 months. And I could see that, I can share so many things that personally, there were so many internal transformations, and that it just the word of God. So it has so much power. And then speaking softly and lovingly with everyone with whom he comes into contact, or who we come in contact with. That's very important, because that is, again, good, the conduct, how we conduct, how we behave based on the conscience. And we also control all these rajasic qualities. We just be that loving self. And also not to indulge in talking ill of others. Again, this is very, one of these expression of the inner negativity. So putting into practice the principle of sealing on desires and utilize any savings thereby generated for the service of the mankind. All of us know these 9 things, but the point I'm trying to make here is, this is for everyone to kind of practice on a daily basis, so that number 1, we have that good company. Satsang is presenting to the university. Pardon me? Okay. So I think, for us to fight today, and the company of good is very important. And this is probably one of the best ways to keep in good company, because we are always in that Sat, the Satsang is the company of the truth. And that truth is nothing but ourselves, that big self. So it also gives us that positive environment, positive ambience for us to understand the shortcomings and the shortfalls in us, so that we can transform into that positive self. So I think we've discussed quite a bit. So maybe we will break into groups for about, I think we have about 15 minutes left. So we can discuss here, or we can break into rooms. We can spend about 10 minutes. We have these 2 questions. Sister Hema, can we do that?
Do you want to go into the room? 15 minutes might be quite short, though.
Okay, so we can discuss here too. Yeah. So what the questions are, what is one of the 6 inner enemies that I would like to work on myself? And how could I shift it towards the positive? So we've discussed this over the last 30 minutes or so, but that's the breakout session question. So, Brother Suresh, would you like to lead the discussion?
I think, as you said, that desire is the first thing which we need to attack, and everything originates from there. So I think reducing the desire will be the first thing which I should try and attack, so that attachments and everything.
Turn around and say, it's very confusing, Brother Murli, because the Asia Pacific that he has been highlighting.
I think if you're not speaking, please mute yourself.
Okay, that's.
No, I think Brother Suresh is on some other meeting.
Brother Suresh is here.
He's with the education meeting, so that's why.
Okay.
Sairam.
Sairam, brother. Are you able to?
Yeah, I can see that.
Thoughts?
Yes. I think this is a very, very powerful and practical session that Niranjan has taught. But one thing that I just want to say is that you can never face the devil if you don't follow the master, you know. As you keep on following the master only, can you face the devil? The more and more negativity, the more and more thing comes out, because suddenly your hairstyle can only be adjusted if you have a mirror. So you find that a lot of things can be seen if you follow the master, and the master's clarity is what that is going to take us more and more to realize where we are weak in, and then we'll fight till the very end, and then we'll finish the game. So we can't finish the game if we don't follow the master. So this is the nice paradox I just wanted to just remind. And all these points that is mentioned, we really hope that we work. I think the key point is we are not perfect, but the perfection is about discovering the imperfection. I think that is what perfection is. If we can decide where we are imperfect, suddenly why are we getting angry? Why suddenly we are getting, have sudden pride? Why is it that, why did this occasion, why did I feel jealous when the other person got promoted? Why did this happen? Okay, it's never to happen, it may not be natural, but when it happens, why does it happen? And the self-inquiry questions that will lead towards this will develop that whole thing. You know, that I think is what this whole practicality in spirituality is just meaning that. So in other words, I think we can fall, but they say, don't fall like a brick, but fall like a ball so that we can bounce back. That's the whole idea. And that's the whole purpose of the satsang, is to keep bouncing back, so that the valley becomes lesser and lesser and lesser. So there's more evening out as time goes by. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Suresh. Brother
William?
Yes, William.
I think one of the things here that I have found helpful is to watch a trapping of language. Like if we say, I am angry, I am infatuated, I am arrogant. And I am means that's my being, that's my very identity. And Swami says, for example, don't say I am my body, I have my body. Don't say I am my mind, I have a mind. And if we start to tell ourselves, I have this desire, I have this anger, not that I am angry, the I am is my true self of divine. But as soon as we say, I have this desire, I have this anger, I have this infatuation, I have this arrogance, I have this pride, we've taken one step away from identifying with it, that's the first release. And as soon as we release, we have the room to now start turning towards the positive. Because we stopped identifying ourselves as who I am is, I am angry and I am justified in that anger because this person has treated me so badly. Well, I'm stuck. Okay, I have this anger. This is my reaction to this person. Oh, now I've got room to ask, is this person telling me something I don't want to hear, but it's important to hear? Is this person suffering? Is that why they're yelling at me? Because they're suffering. What can I do compassionately to help them? We have to make that first little step back, and then they have room to turn towards love, to turn towards truth, towards service, and so on. So I think that's the very first important move that I can share here.
Sure. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother William. And I know, Brother Billy, you unmuted yourself. You want to share something?
Oh, yeah, I think to really overcome these 6 inner enemies is the constant mental audit. Constantly audit the emotions that comes along. Only then we can really work towards shifting. Why did I say this word earlier? No, why was I angry just now? So why do I dislike this? So constantly working on it, examine your thoughts constantly. I think this is one way to shift to the positive side of it.
Sairam, I think maybe one way to practice more successfully how to get rid of all these negativities is to take heed of Swami's watch. Swami said, watch your words, actions, thoughts, character, and heart. I think if we focus on that and watch all this closely, our our sadhana will be more successful. Sairam.
Thank you, sister. That's so beautiful.
Sairam.
Sairam.
Sairam. I agree with Brother Suresh that with the help of the Guru only we can come to that stage, to that stage. And we must never look down on anybody or look up at anybody. Equanimity is very important. If you have that sort of thing and never separate us, only the body separates us, not the soul. Whether you're female or male or young or old, all are equal. So if you have that mindset, it is easy to overcome all this. Sairam.
Thank you. Thank you, sister. Yes. I think you kind of nicely summarized this. The body identification is what that separates us. And that's a cause for a lot of things. And so thank you. You know, even the session that Brother William shared, right? The conditional, unconditional, and conditional. The body is the cause for that being conditional, and we had to go over the body to be unconditional. So thank you. Anyone else? We have another 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, Sairam, brother.
Sairam.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think desire is basically the first problem that we have, which ultimately leads to the others. So I kind of follow this pyramid of desires. There's a pyramid of desires where at the bottom part, you have the toys and joys of life and acquisition and enjoyments and all that, you know, when we were younger. And then eventually we look out, beyond that, we set a higher ideal, have noble aims. And then after that, we go into self-development, self-mastery, self-inquiry, and then self-realization. So initially it's outwards, we are looking outwards, like the lock and key just now that you were talking about. Initially, we are looking outwards, but eventually we will turn inwards and start the self-development, self-inquiry part of it, and eventually lead to self-realization. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, sister. I really like that pyramid approach. That's very. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may add something here. Okay.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, in 1965 or 67, in one of his discourse, Swami suddenly mentioned about 2 prayers, which he said, I'd like all of you to practice these 2 prayers. One prayer will be in the morning and one prayer will be in the night. And the morning prayer is something like this. Okay, oh Lord, I'm born now from the womb of sleep. I'm determined to carry out all tasks this day as offerings to Thee, with Thee ever present before my mind's eye. And then the powerful part of this prayer is this: make my thoughts, words, and deeds sacred and pure. Let me not inflict pain on anyone. Let no one inflict pain on me. Direct me, guide me this day. So I think this particular line of the, make my thoughts, words, and deeds sacred, it covers all these things, which means whenever we say this prayer and anger comes, hey, my thought is not sacred, pure, I'm angry, Yeah, I'm feeling jealous. So these lines of affirmation, I think, will help us to really tackle all these 6 inner enemies.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, brother. That's really important. And I mean, when I was talking to one of the senior devotees when I was visiting Prashant Liam a few years back, and he said that Swami has taught us even how to properly sit down on a chair to that level. So he has actually given everything for us to lead a good life and to be that good self. So it's just that it goes back to the very first F, follow the master. And, so thank you for sharing your thoughts. Anyone else?
Sairam, brother.
Sairam.
Brother, as we mentioned, these 6 enemies, how they operate is depend on our past vasanas and how we brought up the surrounding and everything. So only way to tackle everything in one shot is selfless service. Surrender all your action, karma pala tyaga to Him, everything to him, and then eventually your life, you surrender your own life to him. Only he can transmit you to upper level. So we have to do whatever things to open up his grace, to get his grace flowing. That's Sairam, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, sister. Thank you. Selfless service. Yes, thank you.
Brother, can I share this one point here?
Yes, we have 1 minute. Yes,
I was thinking that all these negative qualities are supposed to be human factors acquired during the course of their life. Now, these human factors could be deconditioned. How are you going to do that? To erase that is not easy. However, if you were to practice surrender, self-surrender, you might be able to overcome or minimize the effect of the 6 enemies. And one of the best ways done by people in Malaysia, I think, the Muslims, the Christians, the Hindus, is by fasting. During that period, they surrender. And during that period, they endure. They go through the fasting period. They deny themselves of food. And during that period, they're able to transcend the difficulties of hunger. And at the same time, good qualities appear. And that is because they put in prayers during that period. So during that duration of fasting, they are more attuned towards attachment to God. And that desire multiplies and their character changes. And after, say, 6 days of fast during the Hindu Kandasasti fast, for instance, or a 30-day fast by the Muslims during Ramadan, or the 40-day fast during the Lent, which the Christians practice, the Catholics practice that, there would be a change. And that change would have a multiplier effect in later life to become good characters. So this cannot be imposed. This has got to be self-realized. That's the point I'm trying to say, brother.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. How these rituals, once they're taken in the right perspective, and how they can help us come out or overcome these impulses. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those things, brother. So I think we are about time. So 7:01, I mean, for me in California. So we'll move on to the next segment. So I think really wonderful sharing. Thank you so much, everyone. Really, as I mentioned, the sharing actually, makes the understanding of everyone's understanding and the perspective broadens our perspective so that we have a deep understanding of the teachings. So next one is the tool time. So for the next 2 weeks until we meet 2 weeks from today, please follow the, just monitor if they encounter the 6 enemies in themselves, or monitor if you encounter the 6 enemies in yourselves, and practice shifting them to be positive. How is your spiritual discipline helping you to realize your true nature of love? So these are the 2, basically the homework for us until we meet next time. And so again, at this time, I would like to extend offer my gratitude to Swami for this wonderful opportunity to be together in his name and to study his teachings and to dive deeper into his teachings so we understand and practice them. Thank you for the opportunity. With that, back to you, Brother Suresh.
Thank you, Brother Niranjan, Brother William. It's really been very nice and very good sharing. I just want to also say one more point before we finish off. Is it possible for you, you have attended a few sessions. There's going to be one last session 1 month from now. What is it, 1 month? Yeah, 1 month from now.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, sorry, 2 weeks from now. So after that particular session, is it possible for us to really, is it possible for you to just record in 1-2 minutes or maybe even 3 minutes in your video and send us your experiences, your insights, what you felt, because we are trying to make a montage of this through these testimonials and all that. And we also would like to show this in the Sri Lanka when we come there. So it's a nice collation of testimonials. It'll be very nice to see what you think and what you felt in a video. You can just, you can just use a normal video presentation, just using your handphone, and that's good enough for it, and send it to us. And then that's it, whatever you want to say, even if it is not so good, but just send it as well. Okay, with those few words, thank you so much. Till we meet again next week, Sairam.
So maybe Brother Billy, Suresh, William, and Brother Manoj and Sister Hema, can we just quickly stay back for a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we do a momentary chant? Yeah.